recorded on the illustrious day of October 28th, 2024. Good afternoon, Rod. Good afternoon, Ray. Good afternoon, Brody. How's everyone doing?
Doing very well. I think you're probably doing the best. Hopefully you're doing the best, because for those that are listening in right now, we forgot Edward's birthday today, and it is his birthday. He's like 36.
Add 20 years to that.
Okay.
Add 20 years to that.
Something
56
like that.
today. 56.
So happy birthday, Edward. Should we sing? Should we sing now, or
do that?
Yeah.
Happy birthday to you.
No, I think Edward is right.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh my gosh, this is painful.
Happy birthday,
Oh, he's
dear
going in good.
Edward.
Happy
birthday to you.
It's like a dirge. It's not even a happy moment. It's like
a dirge. It's a funeral dirge.
Like,
oh gosh.
Like, this is when they roll my coffin into the cremation machine.
Yeah. Never.
Roll me right in there, right?
Never.
I want. You don't appreciate my singing? Fine. That's fine.
No, I like
it.
It's
beautiful.
You were brave. You were the bravest one.
I felt things I didn't know. I was just like, oh my God, that's the human experience. You just introduced me to it.
I literally thought
embarrassing at parties. Ask my wife.
I really thought in my advanced age I couldn't hear that tone anymore, but evidently it's still there. I can hear that decibel. So there you go. What's up, everybody? Everybody's good. It's Monday. How you?
We are good. It's been a while since I've been on. Unfortunately, I've been gone. Right? Can I share something real quick before we go around the horn?
Please.
Go ahead.
So I wasn't on after my birthday. Right?
Yes,
so
which was on 11th
of October. It was your birthday. Not that I'm trying to, delay your birthday. But
you are.
See, can you see this? This is what I did for my birthday.
Wow.
I went and had an experience. I met Lee Majors from the $6 Million Man TV show, and he actually signed one of the $6 Million Man action figures. So it says
that action figure has quintuply, whatever the word is, gazillion in value right now.
I would say so. After my birthday, I went to Fort Lauderdale last week, and I'm going to share this in the show notes. But I share this for a specific reason. So I did like a mini workshop at this conference last week for KQL. Of course, I talked about co-pilot security as well, but I'll supply this in the show notes so anyone can go out and get this workshop and do the workshop themselves, or supply or deliver the workshop for their own organizations. The last piece of this I'll focus on is the reason why I say that is this. We kind of announced this today. This will be available it says December 10th, but my guess is we might talk about it at Ignite this year, right? One of the things I do want to point out here, though, which I thought was interesting, it does say instructor-led training. So I did contact the content owner today, and this will also be a learn path and an assessment. So yeah, you can take the instructor-led training, but it will have other options to learn this. So this is a new one, SC 5004, which it still requires some knowledge of KQL, which is why I mentioned the KQL a second ago.
That's a no-brainer. If you're hunting in the Microsoft security threat landscape, KQL is your second language, right? And big shout out to a friend of the show. I knew this, but did not know the details of it, which is odd that they had. This is Microsoft only second security designation that has 4 numerical digits in it. Only the second one they've ever had. Yeah, 5,004.
Now we're up to 8. Now we're up to 8 because it's 4 plus 4.
4 plus.
I got the joke.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Big shout out to you, Frank Grimberg, co-creator of the show. How you doing? GTA and exam writing and course creation master. We need to check in on Frank. Make sure he's all right.
I want to learn about this course. Where can I sign up for this amazing course, and when is it?
Well, I talked about that. The wrong one. The content. Yeah, see, I'm trying to sneak that back in. So the release date is December 10th, but that's the instructor-led training course. The other stuff should be available soon. It's not available yet. This is just kind of I don't know why they do this sometimes. Look, coming in December. Okay, I'm going to mark my calendar, but not really. I promise you, we'll probably announce something sooner than that. At least the learn path and the assessment and stuff like that. So,
One of the biggest things I want to find out, because I'm just OCD, is why they went with 5,004. And I'm going to ask that.
there we go. Yeah, that's a good.
I just want to know why it's 5. You know my big thing on why.
I know your big thing on the numbers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like everyone's gonna have a problem with this as soon as he sees it.
Yeah, I am.
I don't know about this.
I'm fixated on it for no particular reason. Hey,
last thing though, to pass before I send. I'm sorry, but I do want to mention this because we'll forget. We do have an extra show this week.
We do.
The Halloween special is on Wednesday. All right. So we'll be talking about that. I'll promote it, amplify it tomorrow and stuff like that. It's not actually called Halloween Hunt, but I just love this picture
that's what it was for.
Pilot created.
I was like, I thought you were going to do another, and then you were like, and in addition, okay, all right. It's good. I love it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And our special guest on Wednesday, it's going to be outstanding. We're going to have
incredible
Jason, Michael. Who else we're going to have on? Michael Myers. We're going to have Jason.
Freddie.
We're going to have Freddie Krueger. Freddie will be on.
The scariest. We'll have Ray.
Ooh.
Pinhead.
Ooh.
Isn't that the guy from?
Yeah.
What was that from?
Yeah. Hellraisers.
Hellraisers.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that show scared me to death. But anyway, as an adult, I could not watch that.
No.
So I didn't break anything last week. I learned that I'll go first. This is my birthday. This is the only time that you guys will defer. Otherwise, Brody would beat me up. I did learn that as long as Sentinel has been out and the public-facing pricing calculator is there, people are still getting confused. The hardest thing I've had to deal with last week wasn't really technical. It was going in and trying to justify documentation I didn't write, saying that when you buy at a tiered price of a sort, some people think that if you buy 500 gigabytes per day, that price right there and the subsequent discount next to it, that discount applies to that price there. No, the price is already baked into the price that you see posted. So all they had someone who went in, looked at the price, read it, misinterpreted it, and said, oh, this price, then take that percentage off, and then take my company percentage off. And guess what you have? You have a bill that you didn't anticipate because you double discounted. But it's okay though. Things will be fixed. And I have to agree. If you read it as an interpretive description of it, this is the discount as you pay as you go amount. So it makes it but you have to. In the early days, I ran into this. This time, Sentinel is no longer incubation. It is mainstream and everything else. But I always say, I love the product. I love everything else about it. It seems that Microsoft needs to really fix the pricing piece of it. You should not have a PhD in advanced Excel analytics skills to do this. This is ridiculous.
Well, imagine if that was in the real world with real things, okay? Instead of just the cloud or a service or an application. Imagine going to get your car repaired. And they're like, well, here's our calculator for that. We don't know exactly how long it's going to take. You literally want a quote so you can go to different places and get, you're going to choose based on that quote, right? Or that level of service. The cloud's a little bit different. If you base it on consumption, you just literally, it's just like throwing dice.
And the crazy part about it, you can't beat up on Microsoft like this. You got to you can't beat up on any of the cloud services. A lot of the cloud services and compute that you have, even compute, is really based on how much you use it. So I find it incredulous that people who have been consuming cloud resources, and don't just say Sentinel anything, but you don't understand, things like how many API calls or how much storage you're putting in here and how many skill sets you spin up to be able to do a particular workload, how many Kubernetes clusters that you create and destroy and break down. We're still stuck in this CapEx mindset because you issue a bill of materials and you go get this, but you're in OpEx now. And we've been OpEx for almost a decade or more. And why? But I tell you what it goes back to. It goes back to the leadership of those who are still running things and their mindsets. That's what it is. And so we have to sit here and make sure that when you're bringing people who are new to the thing, listen to how it's not hard. You just got to put it in and they're trying to map to it. But I did that. Big shout out to Thomas Newham. I was able to get his Entra SecOps installed with no help. Way for Ed. It's rock stars.
Yeah.
You know, I grabbed the tiger by the tail. I don't know what animal you grab by the tail. Like if it had been Cali, see, I wouldn't. It's that instruction. I just went into it and got it right. And you're right. It's pretty straightforward. It will tell you if your PowerShell modules are severely out of date, Ed, and your version of it. And I got it all taken care of. But it was pretty much straightforward. Now, configuring an environment to be able to see some relevant stuff is going on. And another thing, if you're using, everybody's using a Microsoft Graph, but now you can see activity of your Microsoft Graph, who was doing what. So I went into that, turned that diagnostic on so it can pull that activity. That way, if you see people making calls against your graph internally against unauthorized accounts, people are piping against managed identities, or even making calls and extrapolating the data outside of your network, you need to see the graph of what people are doing in your environment. I put it in my lab. I got a lot of stuff in my lab. Nothing nefarious came up, but a lot of automated stuff that is just calling on behalf of stuff. I'm like, I have no idea what this is. So I started a huge audit around that to say, okay, what are these things to do? What I did notice, I need to pull Rod in because I'm not sure. I could have swore I saw something that referenced Copilot for security, and I could not figure what it was. It had a very odd name in it. And before I said it out loud, I said, let me pull Rod in on this because if it's capturing Copilot for security activity, then that's interesting. Now, it can see Microsoft 365 Copilot. It can see that. That's obvious. It says it, but it seems like I bet this is security Copilot, but I can't be sure. So that's one thing I broke this weekend. Ray, what did you break? I build, fix.
Let's see. I closed out my last class. I'm starting my new class, Critical Incident Command. So that's exciting stuff. We are coming down to crunch time for our Halloween Fright Fest special event on Wednesday. So working with the threat hunters on that. It's going to be like the hunters from the Defender Expert Service, but we're going to focus on all of the gnarly stuff that they've been seeing. So very, very much stoked for it. And then we have our upcoming public facing webinar November 13th. So working on like storyboarding that. So it's exciting to get to do the technical aspects as well as the community engagement for it. Let's see what else. Well, I'm here in Redmond, Mothership. So coming from New York, so here, a 3-hour difference, but I always feel like a superhero because I'm like, I am from the future. And now, and now I can do so much more. I don't, but just breaking hearts, but building them back up again. And that's really, it's my motto. There you go.
Send me the link to your webinar again. We'll put it in the show notes, by the way.
Yeah. Brody, what about you? Can't dance?
Can't dance. I spent a couple hours setting up a giant inflatable ghost on my front lawn during a windy day. That's a fun thing to do. Yeah, and one of those. Yeah, it lights up. Super cool.
Dude, if you need friends, if you need friends, just reach out. You don't need to blow up.
That was a good one. Bad, but good.
Rude. And Anyway, I'm doing the same stuff I was doing last week, so I'm just going to use my remaining time to give a shout out to Richard Diver, who did a presentation on AI security at Bay Path University, dropping the link in the chat. Richard and I recently finished up an internal discussion on his new book around AI security, and it was 12 parts, and the security community loved it, and he's doing more, as you can see by the link, more external presentations on this. So shout out Richard Diver. I see the remainder of my time to the guest.
Speaking of which, sorry, I have to interject this. If anybody wants to see Richard, I'm trying to get him to come to the same event that I'm trying to get Edward to come to in May. So Richard may actually be there talking about AI for security, all this stuff. People could see him in person.
I think that's what I did. Knew that May I wasn't going to leave it to the gods of scheduling. Put it on my calendar now, right?
Yeah.
And do it because that's one of my 2025 goals. I flaked, swung, missed, lost on being community building. You and Ray do so much, and Brody and I are sitting on the stump every week, trolling. But you guys are always out there. Ray goes to all the events. She take it upon herself to do it. Rod obviously is on the circuit, speaking circuit. That's a professional goal for me next year. I got to meet someone
Good word.
I got to meet someone very influential this week. I'll tell you guys about it next week. Real,
I'll go with you next time. I can't wait to meet you. But Edward, I help run the worldwide security community at Microsoft.
I know, Brody. You sign all the
It's
when you see all the
worldwide.
when you see all the
Worldwide.
IMs that come in through the team, Brody signs them. He has a bot. You know I run this, right? See that?
Just saying. You don't have the travel budget though, but I can't wait to eventually, maybe one day soon, go with Rod and Ray and you somewhere in person. That would be great.
Yeah, travel budget is a real thing. But hey,
By the way, your YouTube video link doesn't work, so I'll need that.
My YouTube
That's rude.
video?
No,
hey.
Richard
Oh,
Diver presentation.
okay.
look
I was
at-
like, that
But-
YouTube video is not for public consumption.
So this is Ray's guest, so we can't have her in the room eating up all the snacks and drinking up all the good wine and everything. We got to get out here and do that. So Ray, I'll be quiet. This is your guest. I'm here.
This is one of the actual Defender experts from our Defender Expert Search. She leads one of our top elite threat hunting units. This is Sam Gardner. So I am so stoked to share her with the world. And as you can see, she is also very much excited. She's like, I have to get back to defending organizations.
Well,
Right
she got bored in the green room, and
Yeah.
she really is in the green room. Look at
They're
her.
actually in the green room. Yeah. Sam, you look so familiar. Have we met before?
No, we have not. I mean, outside of that one meeting, no.
Yeah, yeah. And you were on the latest CCP Fireside Chat.
You
Was that one?
participated and you chimed in, yes.
Yeah.
And then
yes.
so Sam, let's start from the very beginning. Who are you, and what do you do, Sam?
So I'm Sam Gardner. I run threat hunting team within Defender Experts, where we solve or we track emergent threats and hope to solve the problems that persist within our product and make it better.
And so you're on the research side of Defender Experts. It's a human-led service, so you are representing, you manage a team of actual human Microsoft cybersecurity threat hunters. Okay, because people get the wrong idea. They're like, okay, humans, but you are the real deal. Can you tell us how you started out in cyber?
Oh man, I want to say cyber wasn't a thing when I was in college. It was computer science and information technology, right? So you either pick your poison between them both, or you pick both of them, and I picked both of them. Before I graduated college, I got my offer letter to work at NSA, and so I worked there.
No big deal there. All right.
Heard of them.
Up until the past 2 years, I worked there for all of my career and just ascended the ranks there.
Oh, okay.
I like it. You're like, that's it, and no more about that.
You silenced everyone.
Yeah,
Like, oh,
yeah.
okay,
You're good.
there you go. Yeah.
So when I used to cover agency at Microsoft, never worked at agency, only covered cyber defense. How is that? I talk to people. It's either hush hush or no comment, but considering almost the entirety of your career outside of college is working in agency, and I do believe NSA is considered an agency, then coming to a civilian entity, that had to be a mind change to do that.
It was. I mean, less constraints, I would say. I was working for an agency. You are bleeding, from your ears, mouth, nose, with auditing, compliance, privacy, right? Laws that bound you, right? And I was actually kind of shocked the transition from, dealing in that space to a public company and the type of data and stuff that's at your fingertips, right? That was very shocking to me.
And we have that same kind of constraint here, but you are actually able to talk to the humans that drive it. So I think that's the difference. So it's the same level of intensity. You're able to have the dialogue and then understand and kind of help shape the program around it, because we need to make sure that we are enabling the business of protecting folks, and that we can't be necessarily operating in constraints like that.
I mean, I think it's two different aspects. I think there's the business side of Microsoft, right? And then from the agency, it's the flag, right? And so for us, it's one of those things of it's always protecting life, right? That
Yeah.
starts number one. And then from there, it's cybersecurity and protecting information, right? But what bounds us together is the United States flag, right?
Mhm.
And so it's a lot different than the dollar, the power of the dollar, right?
Yeah.
I'm dealing from the business aspect of it.
Yeah. Did you find, I guess, maybe as you kind of transitioned into kind of commercial or whatever, other than the government, were your capabilities better, expanded? Were you? It just seems to me, I'm thinking, I go from this kind of strict regimen. We got to be super careful. We have all of these restrictions and guardrails in place. I'm sure we still have those. Otherwise, our customers wouldn't trust us. But at the same time, were there additional capabilities that were afforded you because you were doing it outside of that type of environment?
Oh, that's a tricky question. I mean, I guess it depends on the mission and scope of those missions within the
Yeah.
agency. I would sit there and say that you have to understand uh, what your objectives are, right? Like, so from the cybersecurity, right, or the information security space, um, protecting our information is important, but also protecting entities that falls in our breadth or scope. We have to protect them as well, right? And so for us, we get a lot of intel feeds coming in and discerning what's useful, what's not, what's within our jurisdiction, what can we touch, what can we not, because there are boundaries. There's clear boundaries between us, FBI, and CIA. Is clear boundaries, right? People think that NSA looks at all domestic traffic that is outside our scope. We cannot do that, right? That's FBI space. And so understand interagencies and how they operate and how to do it in a way that's compliant and also protect US policies. That's very, very important. And it's the same. I think Ray hit on it when it comes to Microsoft from a lawyer legality standpoint, compliance and privacy, protecting customer information, making sure there's no data leaks. Those are still main priority for us at Microsoft. So understanding those bounds. Another nuance in your question, which was tool sets, right? Was the tool
Yeah.
sets better? What was the data sets more enriched? It depends, right? And I'd say it all depends again on mission scope, what we're able to collect, what we're able to not touch, right? Um, it's a little different than Microsoft, whereas Microsoft is bound by not just their data that they collect, which is a plethora of information, but also third-party signals. So there's more in things that can enrich and enhance our holistic view of
Yeah.
what's happening in the threatscape.
Well, you're
If that
also kind of, in my mind, protecting different things. So is there a different urgency versus what you used to do versus what you do now?
100%. When you deal with
Yeah.
anything that's the warfighter, loss of life is always the thing that goes first, right? Making sure that when there's boots on the ground in certain locations, that you provide the best and most absolute um, results possible, right? And that to me, that's somebody might not come home if you are not doing your job effectively. That's to me is more devastating and more fulfilling because also you get to protect, right?
Yeah.
Then differently than Microsoft and then flipping the switch for public
I just
companies.
can't imagine that responsibility, right? That's just I
Well,
know
but
what I do from a cybersecurity perspective, but from the other perspective, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, that's crazy.
well, we protect. Well, the Defender Experts protects all sorts of organizations across the world, right?
Yes.
So that
Yeah.
that kind of prioritization schema ties in again to that different sense of the urgency or criticality as we focus our efforts. I would say again because it's all sorts of industry and engagements, but that begs the question of you are a leader within Defender Experts within
Mm.
Microsoft. In terms of your principles, we have our Microsoft principles, but what have you taken from your days at NSA and how have you kind of incorporated them into your managerial style, into your operational framework for how you show up within Defender Experts and represent Microsoft?
Oh, that's a great question. I think there's two things that initially popped in my mind and I'm going to go with them
Yes, yeah, yeah.
that you brought to my attention. Like one is One Microsoft, right? that to me really stands out because again, when I sat there and said like the flag unites us when I was working at NSA, also our Five Eyes partners, right? And so being able to harness not just the intelligence United States, but also our Five Eye partners, that to me, I don't think people understand that you're strong together as a fist than you are as an open hand, right? And that is a mantra that people need to understand. And with One Microsoft, it hammers home because we have so many great partners and unique relationships. And I mean, for us collectively, we're better when we're together, right? And so for Defender Experts, we have global partners that surveils customer data sets, that ensures that we function at a, follow the sun model. And so having that interconnectivity, having that awareness that, hey, I can close my eyes and know that the lights are still on and it's still running. That's important, and have that trust relationship. So One Microsoft definitely tops the cake for me. The other portion that's very interesting and was unique to me in Microsoft is empathy, right? People speak about it. It's one of those things where it's like one of those soft skills. Like people speak about it, but to live it, right? To sit there and say that you're more than just a cog, you are a person, right? And I take the totality of what happens in your life and to ensure that work-life balance doesn't impact it. It's important. And I understand that from an NSA standpoint, because sometimes it's hard to unplug, right? Because you're scared. Like at the end of the day, like you think sometimes that you're the essential cog. And if I go, something happens, something bad happens, right? And it's hard to unplug. Here at Microsoft, that interconnectivity, that fusion, that to me helps you unplug, but it also helps you drive empathy because you're safe. You're going to be okay. We have smart people in the room that can help.
Yeah, for sure. You build up your folks. Yeah, you make sure that they have the chops, and so it's not what if one person's out, then it all falls to pieces. You make sure that they come equipped and they can provide that coverage.
Did you find that coming to Microsoft was equal likes? Meaning you went from a massive organization. Did you find that the totality of the people that are your peers directly and subsequent is about the same, so you weren't overwhelmed? Microsoft's not bigger; it's just different. Is that the thing that you saw?
Sure. I will sit here and say, that Microsoft reminds me when I first came aboard, 2022. Microsoft reminded me of the beginnings of the hunt team at NSA. It reminded me like we're trying to figure it out. I call it the scrappy startup. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to kick the tires, and there's a lot of growing pains that come with it, right? And as it grows, sometimes it can become unruly a little bit. How do you manage it? How do you establish a cadence? And so, like to me, it was a fun time to be a part of the Defender Experts, what we used to be called MTE, and seeing the ascension of that and the growth of that. But as far as team and did it change? Like, what was it? Was it something that was it seamless? There was growth. I definitely think it was growth with it.
Very cool. Sam, hi Sam, I'm Brody.
Hello.
You have a super cool job, and I just want to say first off, thank you, because that's that is exactly the kind of thing I love about working where we work. It's because we get people, extreme talents like yourself, coming in to help protect society. So thank you first off, because I'm just floored by the fact that you're on the show here today and all the experiences you're bringing.
Thank you.
And on top of that, I work a lot with public sector organizations in Canada, one of your Five Eyes partners. And yeah, we got less budget in Canada, right? But Canada is working hard to meet the same level of zero trust modernization that the US DoD has been putting out. And I'd like to just get your opinion on if you think that Western coalition governments are stepping up enough in this day and age with the current global situation that's in front of us. Do you think we're getting ahead of the issue? Do you think we're better preparing our critical infrastructures, or do you think there's significant work to be done, or we're falling behind? I'd love to get your take on it. Just your opinion, of course.
That's a
Yeah, in
very
30
loaded.
seconds. Please
That's
give us
very
your
loaded.
entire
No
platform and
time limit.
agenda. And
No,
Oh man,
please. Yeah.
it's very
Brody,
loaded. Oh.
Brody,
Yeah,
we
I want to
wanna-
get like this is amazing. It's so rare
No,
I get
no,
to talk to somebody like this. Just sorry, Sam.
No,
go ahead.
she's
Sorry, I'm having a
amazing.
nerd moment.
I'm gonna give you time, Sam. Where the reason why I wanted Sam to be everywhere is because I was one of my first classes in cyber ops, and I was doing reverse engineering on malware, and I was having such a hard time with Ada, and I was like, "What's going on here? I can't figure it out." And Sam's like, "What do you do? Why are you distracted?" I was like, "I can't figure it out." And she's like, "Show me what you got." I was like, "I can't figure it out." And she's like, "You know." Oh, you don't see this here? It's right there. You don't see, like, that's really interesting. I'm like, I don't know what's interesting. I just clicked on something and that is it. That is all I could do. What else can I click on? And Sam was such an expert, just no pun intended, but truly just being patient. And she realized that I was a little bit out of my depth. And she's like, okay, we'll take a pause. What do you know? What do you see? And then helping me to dig deeper in it. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this is your gem, Sam, and not only talented at the technical capabilities and your skill set, but your ability to educate, empower, and equip others. And again, not just with the technical chops, but with the sense of confidence to be able to tackle it. It was just like she needs to be everywhere, and folks need to hear her.
Such praise.
So Brody, that's a tough question. Thank you, Ray. But I think that is a nuanced question simply because we could take it different angles, right? From the CNO perspective, the cyber network operations perspective, which is the offensive side, and then you have the cybersecurity side, which is the defensive side, right? And I'm going to stick with my wheelhouse right now, which is cybersecurity. I will sit here and say, it depends. If you're asking from a policy move, how fast we can move as a government standpoint with our Five Eye partners, subjective. It depends on the topic, the threat associated with it, jurisdiction. There's so many components associated with it. From a public space, I mean, it's honestly, you're not bound. It's pretty limitless. I mean, you're not really bound by the constraints of jurisdictions per se. Like there's also the privacy component of data and how data is housed and stuff like that. But those are easy things to go across. I would sit here and say, have we done enough? Where are we with posture? I would say slow and steady, turtle. Like, I mean, it's not this is not it's a daunting task where we're facing. I always sit there and say, because elections is here, right? And defender experts is on the case. I will sit here and say that don't go with the assumption that there's going to be a knock on the door and they're going to say, hey, I'm here, and product is going to detect it. It's going to be a magical. Go with the assumption, and that's just me from my former hat. Go with the assumption they're already in the environment. They already have the credentials.
Yeah. Right.
And so and that mindset flips everything on its head, right? Because it's scary, right? And it pulls on a thread that you're not really used to, which is get rid of all the glitz and glamour of I have to find a hot threat, or I need these telemetry signals, or like now you have to baseline. You have to look for anomalies, which is not sexy. That's not a sexy job. But if you can really harness the data and understand it and just get a cadence of what's happening on the network, because we didn't build it, we didn't architect the network, we didn't put the safeguards in place, but get into the scope of understanding, what's happening in the environment, really, what are we expecting, and then go back and forth, make it a dialogue with the customer, which is cool and unique to Microsoft. Is we can have that dialogue. Right. That to me is the win.
Yeah, go back to a recent course I took. Is what you're saying is trying to find that temporal moment or that pivot point where you find evidence of execution and where to put your efforts in. Right? You were still at NSA when I was covering agency, so a lot of the stuff I sort of got exposed to because I was covering Odin. And I'm like, what have I got myself into over here doing this, right? And all that. How does it feel not? And I don't know if you have to. How does it feel not to have to worry about carrying a clearance, double poly, and all these other things? And
fun stuff. Oh my gosh. You don't know how many polygraphs you have to take, or background investigations and financial disclosures. That was probably the the most fun to not to get rid of coming over to Microsoft. I was like, oh my gosh, don't have to do this anymore. This is easy. Oh my goodness, let's start. Oh, more. This is the only paperwork. Perfect.
I was trying to get a clearance, and they were still trying to go back and ask my high school girlfriend what my character was like. It was terrible. That's what my
It's
character
the
was
pivot
like.
for me. It's like give me 5 people and I'm going to multiply because I'm going to keep asking who else knows Sam from those 5 people. It is crazy.
Yeah.
So do you find yourself now getting away from having to do a sit rep and a readout every morning with your team to be able to just have a normal conversation? Hey, this is how we're gonna do it. I don't know the intricacies on how you guys come on to shift and work. Is it a different type of preparation with your team now?
Yes, it is. Actually, I'm a little homesick. I actually miss the watch floor ops cadence of first top of the morning and the handoff. I miss it. It doesn't exist here, but I'm going to bring it back. I promise you, I'm going to bring it back. But I so we do a weekly cadence, which isn't bad, right? If you do twice a week, that's ambitious. But for us, it's one of those things from a global team perspective, having pass downs, right? Notes that there's tangible for them to read, to grapple on, and then pivot from there. Having well documented notes, I think to us, like those handoffs are very crucial. Our system in which we hand off notes is super imperative, right? To be spot on.
Yeah. Can we take just a quick half step back, because obviously you're in charge of a team, and we've kind of talked with our listeners over the course of the past several months or year what we've talked about Defender Experts, but can we just kind of take a step back? What is Defender Experts? What is this effort that you're leading that people would be interested in?
Oh man. So for the fearless few, like I would sit here and say like Defender Experts are leading, or should I say the bleeding edge of our products, right? So where the product ends, we begin is always what I say. And to me, we turn on the lights. When the product stops, we continue. We try to illuminate things that hasn't been found, need to be found. We dive deep into, hey, this might be a slow draw for you from misconfiguration, but it's a bleed. It's bleeding, right? And if you don't stop it, a threat will happen, right? To me, it's
Now
one of
you're
those.
doing this for our customers, right? So you're a team that works with our customers. They maybe potentially outsource, or how does that work?
So this is a team that handles multiple customers, whether they're trial customers coming in or current customers. And we keep a cadence depending on the service that they have enrolled in. We keep a cadence with them, whether it's through our wonderful Ray, our customer engagement reps, or through our SDMs, which is they are the SOC and they're working with the customers to make sure they know what's happening in their environment. So those are happening in the back end. From a research perspective, though, we're providing the readouts, we're providing the intelligence, we're enriching the data, we're enriching and fusing the data. So those are things you don't see behind the scenes that the customer gets the goodness from.
Yeah, I think that's super valuable, to be honest. The number I mentioned, I was at a conference last week talking about security and KQL and stuff like this. There are a number of customers. We think at Microsoft sometimes that a lot of our security products are targeted toward these large security organizations, but they're not. Our security products, I believe, are best suited for those organizations that can't do it themselves. And I think that's probably where Defender Experts comes in, right?
Well, I think it's more than just that. Like to me, it's one of those things of it can go from medium. I wouldn't even go to small, but from medium to large, right? The socks that you think got it all, because at the end of the day, there's always it's this is an infinite problem, and you have finite resources. You can't hire them all, and so for us, it's one of those things of who knows our data better than us. We are Microsoft, right?
Right.
And who else can fix the problems better than us? Again, this is a gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. 78 trillion signals. We as
78
Microsoft.
trillion.
Yeah. That's
Oh, is it
growing,
up to
right?
70?
That was
Is it up to 78
I
now?
think
Yeah.
that was the
Yeah,
last threat intel
yeah.
report, but I think we're probably higher to
The
be.
signals read like the stock value, right? Up a trillion signals this week, down a trillion signals. But I go back to something you said, Samantha. It is you start to see some of the legacy leadership get away from that old that moniker. I don't want all my eggs in my basket. And when you look at small companies and everything, when they come to a sole provider, first party provider, they tend to do better because what you have now is competing intelligence and competing opinion of all the products you have in. Am I going to believe Microsoft? Am I going to believe CrowdStrike? Am I going to believe Palto? So when you go to this best of breed, you now have to choose favorite on which signal and what telemetry has the validity for me to action on. So when you put all these things in your environment, who do you believe? But I'm a big martial arts guy. I believe if I know my technique better than the five that you know, I'm going to beat you because I am a master at mine and you are a journeyman in yours. And I'm going to beat you in that because I'm just that good. But when you have all of these signals in there, then you start putting in professional favoritism in. Well, I don't believe what's coming in from the vendor. I believe what's coming in from here. I see that is paralyzed in a lot of organizations with all this who are following on the marketing. Oh, the more data you have in, the better you are to act. I don't believe in that. I believe it makes you have indecision on which ways that you pivot, which is why I believe AI is such valuable. There's no emotion in it. Here's what I got, and this is what I'm going to pivot on, and then I'll pivot away from it when I don't believe that it is providing enough value for me to go back to whatever the signal source was. That's the thing that I'm seeing, and marketing did this. Marketing did this with that assumed breach things you talked about earlier in the show. It went from something that had the industry taking that on, like assume you're a breach. I'm already in. Edward and Brody and Ray and Rod are in your infrastructure right now. But marketing took it and started fear mongering it. Assume breach, buy my product. And then they like, oh, this is just cry wolf. I'm not breached because you told me your product was going to get breached. What do you think about when people push back against platforms saying, well, I don't want to put everything in Microsoft's bucket because whatever? Or do you believe the opposite? Do you believe that the more sources and the more things that you get, the better equipped you are? Because I have zero intelligence on what, no pun intended, on what NSA was using for your stuff. So very opinionated, long statement, but the question was, do you believe more is better or concise is better?
I mean, I'll never turn down data. You're speaking to an analyst. I'm sorry, the more the merrier. But I will sit there and say, you picked on something that I like. It can paralyze you, right? And that's scary. You could be inundated with data, right? But I will sit here and say that most of I don't care if it's Tanium, I don't care if it's CrowdStrike. You pick your poison, but they're sitting on top of our environment, right? So they have filter drivers sucking in all the data that we get organically, right? And that's a layer by itself that is not fast because you're actually filtering on a third party driver. Like that's just not fast, right? Yeah. And for me, it's one of those things of these companies, smart people. I know some very smart people, but I would sit here and say that I think people count out unless the power of Microsoft. I think they count it out, and it's kind of shocking to me. And I didn't realize. I think I was just talking about this with a couple of my team members before we got to Microsoft. We really thought of it as a technology company, right? You don't really think of Microsoft and think of experts per se. You think of developers, right? And I think to myself, right, as you know, you get part of the Microsoft ecosystem, Microsoft security ecosystem, and you start to really see like the elves that are actually cobbling the shoes in the background and refining the processes, hunting on the processes, feeding intel to various entities. I will sit there and say you get a whole new appreciation of how quickly they can pivot, right? You get and on top of it, how quickly they can pivot to our product. And that's something that to me is the glaring point when you talk about data, how we utilize data, whether it's actionable to mitigate a problem or bring awareness to the problem to our customer, or even better, fixing our product so that all customers can get this goodness. I mean, to me, it's a trifecta.
Well, and I like that because what Edward was talking about earlier, that signal confusion, the more data, the better, obviously, but you also kind of sort of have to trust your data or that you're getting all the data.
Absolutely.
Right? Because I'll tell you, I'm not going to mention the name, but there's one product that maybe I work on all the time that doesn't provide all the data yet. So we don't know what's going on with this thing.
I could call out Rod. Hey, Sam. So you dove into Defender Experts, and I'd really like to know what is the day in the life of Sam, right? What does that look like for a week? I really want to understand that a bit better, as best as you can describe, of course, confidentiality and all that.
Getting harassed by Ray, I would say, is a big part of
That's
day.
that's from
Yes, that's why I'm
7 to
here.
8 in the morning. That's from
Yeah.
7 to 8 in the morning.
Hey,
What happens
Yeah,
after
no,
Ray?
listen.
Before the coffee kicks in, I will sit there and
Yeah.
say, day in the life. Oh, so it depends on what's happening. Is there a new vulnerability that just popped up in our queue that we have to triage? Is there an event happening? Hence the elections. Is there something hair on fire that's happening as far as a new find on our customer data sets or new finds that are happening across all customers, right? That we need to dive into. That really dictates the day before I even get into the cadence of what we're doing operationally as a team.
Cool. Okay. And just to be clear, so if you detect, okay, elections, fine. But if something is occurring,
Yes.
like everyone's Microsoft's customer is what I like to say with people.
Yes.
Are you, hey, we're noticing this, it's impacting, the financial sector or, name it, right? You don't have to wait for someone to call you. I think we call out when it's serious enough. Is that accurate?
Yes, based on the criticality, based on the industry, we see something, say something, right? And so that's just being a good neighbor, right? It's saying like, hey, you might want to take a deeper dive. And sometimes you might hit the jackpot and you'll get our threat intel team to reach out to you directly. But I don't know if that's a good thing or not because it's nation state. But it's good enough for you to know.
Very cool. Go Ray.
So here's another thing that I've been kind of. Oh, go ahead, Ray. I'm sorry.
No, yeah. A couple of like so to the earlier thread where it's like, is it better to have a single source of intel, or can you have a bit of diversification there? I've worked with customers across the board with the various situations, and the thread of commonality there is that they have either onboarded or renewed to the service, and this is no joke. This is real deal because of the content and insights that Sam's team have provided them. The customers still see value, like, oh, we have this other stuff going on and we really like our other stuff. We're not going to disrupt that, but damn, this is pretty good. This is good. You got more of it? Give us all of it. And then to the other point, day in the life of Sam, what are you doing? New stuff, thinking new. It's a privilege for me to be able to work with Sam and her team that she leads and drive initiatives forward, because it's like, Sam, what other value can we create? Can we innovate with another solution that we have in our ecosystem? We won't say the name of it. Can we do some other stuff? Can we work with partners? And Sam is game for it. And it's really about, to Brody's point, where everyone's our customer, thinking about how we're going to create that value and provide it to them and meet them where they're at so they can be as secure as possible. So Sam's got the technical chops. She has like the business mindset. She is everything all at once. So day in the life of Sam is just kicking ass and being excellent, I think.
Sam, you got your hype girl here, right?
No, I mean, it's real. Like,
this is tough to follow right here.
No, I don't. I mean, like, I don't waste my time with the nonsense. Like, Sam is what's up. So I just wanted to share her with the world, because the world deserves to see the excellence behind the scenes.
Damn. Yeah,
so one of the things that's always kind of confused me, that when I think about Defender experts, so we talked already about these 78, or I don't know what we're at this point, trillion signals. Arguably, I would say that I think Microsoft's threat intelligence is probably the best in the world. I've had this argument before. Some people think it's Cisco. From a Defender expert's perspective, number one, how valuable is those signals to defend to your team? But then also, what tools do you use? Is it the same tools that our customers are using and things like this, or do you have some secret sauce that we shouldn't know about?
I think it's a hodgepodge, honestly. There's not really one tool that's just the cream of the crop. I think it's one of those things of, just like data and how diverse it is, our tool sets are just as diverse, right? It has to be, right? I will sit here and say, when you talk about the Microsoft threat intelligence and how rich it is and how much it pushes us to the bleeding edge, by far, and I feel good about speaking to this because I've seen it from the other end of Doden. But I will sit here and say that I don't think anyone really has this scope of intelligence, right? Look at the footprint. Like, let's be honest, okay? Look at the footprint of Microsoft when it comes to their workstations, their servers. It is prevalent. It's quite prevalent, right? You have those nuances like, oh, but there's Linux servers, but guess what? They're talking to Windows endpoints, right? So, haha, plot thickens, right? But here's the fun part about this situation right here. How fast we get the data in, ingest it, and then enrich it. That to me by far. And you add AI Copilot to it. I mean, we're really are ninjas flipping at this point. But I think the biggest thing to note for me, seeing both ends of our threat intel, our partnership with threat intel, whether it's inside in secure spaces or outside in public spaces, I will sit here and say it's bar none, because you have to practice, whether if you're an attacker, you have to practice in the environment in which you are attacking, right? Aha, that's us, right? And so it's a double-edged sword. We're going to see it all from start to finish, and that you should be scared. I would tell every threat actor, when you talk about scary hours, you should be scared, because at the end of the day, we're there, we're with you every step of the way while you're buying the murder weapon. We're with you. And that's the fun part, right? That's the fun part from a red space and from a blue space of you're the customers, blocking it so they don't kick your door in. That's us. That's Defender experts, right? We want to make sure that the alarm never goes off, right?
Speaking of murder weapons, one of the things that I noted about your bio, by the way, is that you are a Hulu subscriber. I would imagine that you have some show, because we watch Hulu all the time here at our house, and my wife's always looking for like murder mysteries. And so, what is your end of the day thing? What do you do to compress? Is it Hulu? Is it games? Because you've talked already about this urgency working for the NSA, and now for Microsoft. That's a huge responsibility with what you're doing. You have to have some time to give to yourself, right? So, what do you do?
She's a professor too.
Yeah.
She teaches
Yes,
university.
I just
Oh my
finished my
goodness.
fall semester for UMGC. I was teaching master's level intro to cybersecurity.
Wow.
That was fun stuff.
Yeah. So,
Ray knows all the gory details.
forget my question. You literally have no time for yourself. Yeah.
You
No,
put
I'm
them all
kidding.
to shame. They're just like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I put up an inflatable ghost this weekend.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna go
Yeah,
mow my grass with scissors after this, just so I can make myself feel better.
But I finished watching season 2 of The Bear. That was really cool,
Oh, I
right?
like
Super intense. I love it. I love the. There was one portion and it go from the first season to the second season about communication. You guys have to speak to each other. Speak in the like if you don't speak to each other, you're going to knock into each other. You're going to duplicate efforts. And I was able to parallel that to just the environment that I'm in right now, right? We have to keep communicating, right? Constant communication. Did you see this? Because I saw this. And how do we fuse it together? Because when we stop communicating, all of these are stovepipes of excellence.
And I love that. I never really I mean, I've tied it together, but really communication is a level of efficiency. You're building efficiency by having good communications. And that's just like one of my OCD things. So I appreciate that. I just wrote that down. So
Hey, Sam, would you recommend that folks who want to get into this field take a route that takes you to a public sector agency before coming to private sector? Do you find that has immense value versus maybe just starting in private sector and maybe staying? What's your opinion on that?
So I always say that I grew up in the agency, right? So I'm definitely biased and tainted. I think there's nowhere better, honestly. Like to me, it's one of those things where you can learn how intel is curated, how it's not just curated but groomed into something that's actionable, right? Actionable intelligence. But also you have that portion of the offensive side. Like there's so many components where you can hone your skills. I remember one time we had to take the CNO class, and it was the training, the pipe to get you into the class, well, to the job itself as an operator. And someone's like, Howard, how did you get through it so quickly? And I sat there and said, well, if you're a defender, right, you know where to look, right? And so if I know where to look, I know where to hide, because I know where auditing fails. So I can easily subvert the system because I know where to hide. And that's the crux. People take, I mean, for offensive side, you just need a pinprick to punch a hole into the wall. For defender, we have to protect the entire wall.
Right.
It's a more daunting task than doing offense.
What would you say if you had to? And I know we're going to wrap up here shortly, but I'm sure our listeners, what is the one area that you would recommend there's a gap? Maybe potentially you see most organizations have this gap. And if they just did this thing, if they just fixed this gap, then they would be a lot more secure, at least from that basis of approach, right?
Oof, that's a loaded one.
It is, but
you can handle it, Sam.
Yeah. Just make something up. Everybody else does. So.
Just don't say MFA. I'm so sick of getting this question. It's
MFA.
No, because I would be like, well, the gap is you need defender expert because I'm heavy-handed. I'm just like, what's Sam going to say?
Your gap is you're not using our service for.
That's why I was like,
all right,
Brody.
I will sit here and say auditing policies, right? I would sit here and say, like, people are always wondering, like, hey, should I turn this on? What if it stopped things if I turn this on? Like, you need all the signals, turn everything on, right? And maybe that's just me from a threat hunter standpoint, but if you turn it all on, someone's going to see something and say something. And I'd rather have too much of everything than nothing at all, right? Or not enough at all, right? And that's the like, I would sit here and say, talking to customers, I'm always shocked on, oh, we don't have this on for identity, right? Or no, we didn't turn the switch on for endpoint. And that's like, I'm just like, why? Well, what would it hurt? Let's try it.
Yeah.
Money.
So,
well,
yeah, but yeah, I feel you. Yeah.
In respect to that, I think a lot of times, maybe we've been disingenuous with customers sometime because they're trying to save money. We're like, well, we have these cool products that they don't need as much signal. They're more intelligent. They can just take what you have and try to extrapolate something. But that's absolutely not true. Like you said, Sam, I agree. The more data, the better off you are. If you have all the data, you'll be able. Of course, there's a lot of nonsense in the data, but at the same time, you still have to have the proper tools to be able to identify the actual signals.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I would sit there and say, like, even when it comes to like free services, like, people need to understand that just because it's free, like, you should look into it a little more. I love when people say, oh, I got this tool off of GitHub, I want to play with it. Might be a nice little Easter egg in there for you. So just be careful also what to say to most companies, because you'll see them, they're doing their red testing, their pen testing, their red team exercises, and they're using these new tools. And it's like, I don't think you realize what this tool is really doing for you. It's doing a little more than you thought. And guess what? Threat actors use GitHub and post free stuff for you all the time. And so please be careful, guys. That's one thing I would throw out there.
That's perfect.
Halloween safety moment from Sam. Thank you, Sam. We appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I think we're at the top of the hour or a little after. Sam, truly, thank you so much for joining. I think Defender Experts is probably one of those areas at Microsoft that a lot of our listeners and our customers don't have a good understand it quite as well, I think, because it is sort of newer, right? It's kind of a newer service or a newer offering. And I think, they're going to hear a lot more about it. I think in respect to that. And this is a great introduction with Sam, you being here talking about this, because I think, me personally, just listening today, understand that we do have Defender Experts as part of this service. I don't know if that's a pun or not, but it works.
It did work.
But anyway, thank you, Sam, so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
You'll be back on Wednesday.
She's coming back on Wednesday?
Thanks, she's a taskmaster over here. I get it.
No, it's just the real deal. We are like, these are the humans, these are the technical, brilliant minds that are protecting. They're very, very passionate. Even off hours, Sam is messaging me, what's going on here? And I'm like, I gotta figure it out. So I'm very excited for Wednesday, and then we have our public facing webinar November 13th, and that is just a spotlight on folks from Sam's team, and we have analysts from the service. So it's just going to be basically a nerd hour, just a dedicated nerd hour, a deep dive on all the nerdiest.
I'm excited for the deep dive.
Yeah,
we're gonna kill you with the kill chain model. You're gonna see it all, guys, with the KQL queries. Come on.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love KQL.
Thanks.
And I think Wednesday we're going to have some use cases, right? So we've talked about Defender Experts. Wednesday we'll talk about some of the horrors, because it is Halloween, of those use cases and things.
You've
Absolutely.
been holding on to that one, haven't you?
I don't know. I don't know what comes out of me sometimes. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
you,
Thanks
Sam.
to our listeners. We will talk to you on Wednesday. Don't
Wednesday.
miss it, because I don't know. There may be costumes. So just be prepared. And for our listeners, if you want to show up, it's Halloween, wear your costume. Maybe we'll bring you on camera. We might just do that. We can do that. So
We have the power.
again, yeah. Thank you so much, Sam. We will talk to everyone extremely soon.
You're amazing.